Welcome back to Behind the Bower. I'm your host, Susan Martin, Executive Director of Bower Center for the Arts. On our podcast, we offer inspiring conversations, a fresh look at arts in our community, and provide spotlights on artists, performers, collaborative partners, educators, and organizations in our community. We just want to celebrate the universal expression of human experiences through arts, culture, and our community. This month, since Bower Center has been featuring the artwork of the youth in our community by hosting the annual Bedford County Public Schools middle school and high school art shows, our podcasts have been featuring guests who are sharing their thoughts on the importance of art in the schools, art in the lives of our youth and community, and their involvement in empowering youth to explore their creativity. I'm very excited today to introduce my guest, Jay White, who happens to be a member of the Bower Center Board of Directors, among many other organizations, I'm sure. And he's also a gerontologist and a certified dementia practitioner and the executive director of the Bedford Area Education Foundation. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Susan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we just usually start out these conversations with an opportunity for you to kind of introduce yourself, and then maybe we'll jump in a little bit to the mission of the Bedford Area Education Foundation and talk a little bit about that first.
Well, you've already done a fabulous job of introducing me, but Jay White, Executive Director of the Bedford Area Educational Foundation, but I'm also a gerontologist and a certified dementia practitioner with a private practice in the Lynchburg area. So I kind of do the lifespan kind of thing,
Yes.
cradle to grave.
There you go.
I try to be as helpful as I can in all those years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about the foundation's history, when it was formed, why, by whom, how did it get its start?
Well, the foundation began in about 2001 when several community members met and committed to developing a tangible support for better education for students in Bedford County. And as the group kind of formed, normed, stormed, and performed, they developed these common values and principles, and officially got their 501c3 in 2002. And since then, they have donated about $500,000 to Bedford County Public Schools teachers and now increasingly counselors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 450 grants in total so far.
Wow, that's amazing. I was very fortunate to be a part of the foundation as a board member for quite a few years. And I was just amazed, the individuals, which I think this is important to share, that this foundation was just kind of started by a group of individuals in our community that saw a need.
It really was. My father was one of the individuals, John White, who has since passed away, but he and a group of committed educators, Jenny Allman, Wyatt Walton, and others, and many of whom are still on the board of directors today, 20 years later, got together and said, education, backing up at the time, my brother and I had gone through Bedford County Public Schools in the late 80s and early 90s. But at that time, and my dad, who was a real estate developer and on the board of zoning appeals and business owner and all that, saw this explosive growth in Bedford County, and the schools at that time were not keeping pace.
Right.
So I think he and the others wanted to do kind of a non-political organization that could really do its own thing.
Right.
Didn't have a school board and administration even though they're wonderful collaborators, just something quite outside of the establishment. And so that's what they did.
Yes. The thing that interested me the most and why I got involved was at this time was that my kids were all in schools in Bedford County Public Schools. And same thing, I appreciated the fact that I saw that there were always and still are budget cuts to the schools. And that impacts the teachers and their ability to, do experiences with the students beyond the normal, what's required of the SOLs and things that they needed for their classroom setting to be able to do those activities and or projects or expand upon what they were normally teaching with no funds, and so many teachers were spending money out of their pockets.
Absolutely. The research tells us that teachers spend over $750 a year of their own money, which they already don't make a whole lot of money.
Right.
I was doing some research for the podcast, and even though in so many ways Bedford County is ahead of state and national averages, the state and national averages aren't that good. So a teacher in Bedford County on the low end will start off making about $46,000 a year, which is $23 an hour.
Right.
That's not a whole lot of money.
That's not a whole lot. And that's just based on a normal school day. That doesn't really take into account that teachers work evenings, nights, weekends. They're always doing extra activities, whether they're volunteering to work during...
Or voluntold.
Yes, or voluntold during sporting events and, theater and performances and, proms and all that kind of thing.
Stuff that really makes it a holistic experience for the kids.
Right.
But they're not getting compensated.
Right. And I think a lot of people, and I can attest to this because my daughter is now a teacher with Bedford County Public Schools, and I see the amount of work that she puts in to her preparing for her classes, and that goes on after they go home in the evening.
The emotional labor does not shut off.
No, and there's just not, unfortunately, enough time in the day, because not only are they covering their own classes, they're covering other classes, because we also struggle with substitute teachers to fill when a teacher has to be out of their class. So then they rely on the existing teachers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your planning period? Well, I'm going to need you to go next door and cover Mrs. Smith's class. So.
It was a real eye-opener when I have my doctorate in educational leadership, and that happens to be a doctorate that a lot of K-12 folks get to move on to be an assistant principal or a principal. And those 3 years, I learned so much about how much is pushed down from the administration onto the teachers, because like healthcare professionals, they're the first line.
Right.
Teachers and counselors are the first line of defense.
Right.
And it's how much more can we do? So that's why in the foundation, we really like to honor any kind of innovation that teachers have, because not only is it like an accolade, congratulations, here's this money. I mean, you've worked so hard, you deserve it. They get to be creative.
Right.
They get to be more individual. They get to really, try to make their classrooms their own in a time when they really don't have as much say in their classrooms.
Yes.
So it's our honor to try to help. And it really helps recruitment and retention too. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the projects that stand out in your mind. I know some from when I was on the board as well, that the foundation has supported, because I think it's important for our listeners to know that this organization is not necessarily supporting pens, pencils, paper, and crayons and things like that. The teacher is actually asked to kind of think outside the box a little bit. And also, it's almost kind of like their pie in the sky wish list sometimes, something that they've always wanted to do for their students but have never been able to do.
It really is. I mean, one of the projects that from a longitudinal and creative standpoint is a greenhouse. And there was one at Huddleston and there was one at Manita Elementary Schools. And that really gives kids the opportunity to get outside, get out of the classroom, get off your phone, get off your, whatever, and just go out and be in nature.
Right.
And so we were really excited to fund that project. We were the first to fund the whiteboards, getting off the chalkboards and getting onto the whiteboards, and conferences and field trips to the James River Park system. And we funded Stanton River's journalism program to go to New York.
Right.
Just these experiential opportunities and even educational technology.
Right.
But one of the most recent programs, and we've got to give a shout out to Denny Huff and the Bedford Community Health Foundation for helping us fund this, were rocking chairs. I mean, if you can believe something as novel as a rocking chair, and technically the foundation doesn't fund furniture, but the teacher, actually the counselor, the special ed teacher, really pivoted in her application, and she saw the mental health side effects or impacts of the rocking chairs in kids with anxiety,
right?
Who, they don't know how to emotionally regulate yet. So kids would normally have an outburst and disrupt the entire class.
Mm-hmm.
But in this component, they can go over and rock in the rocking chair and chill out.
Right, right.
So the Bedford Community Health Foundation helped us fund those rocking chairs for Forest Middle School.
That's amazing.
Just helped us pivot.
Right, right. Yeah. I was always impressed when I served on the board because I got to review all the applications in depth. And like I said, it was really, I'll be honest, when I was serving on the board for 10 plus years, we never turned anyone down. We may not have been able to fully fund their requests, so we would pivot and provide them with some suggestions of other places they could get additional funding or how they could utilize the funds to, support part of their project. And we always also went back to them and tried to work with them too to improve their application. Because like you said, there are certain things, that the foundation's not going to support that the school should really be supporting, like the necessary furniture and tools like gym class for balls and things like that. Every once in a while, I know we would get some requests for things like that you really just felt like that should definitely, that's something that they're using on a regular basis that should be funded and supported by their school system.
Yeah, things like costumes for performances that are just going to get sweaty and gross and go in a gym bag.
Right, right.
Things really do need to be sustainable and reusable ideally. But you're right. I am just over a year in this position, and in the applications that we've received, the board and the review process, it is very difficult.
It is.
And we get, I'm not going to say the school, but in one of the most recent applications we received, I might get a little verklempt on this one, but a grant application for a food closet.
Mm-hmm.
And then it brings up the discussion, what happens when the food is out?
Right.
Do they come back? And is it really within the mission of the foundation to fund a food closet?
Right, right.
And you just hate not to.
Yes, yeah.
So we do get applications like that are, not within the purview, but it's still, the board really agonizes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we can't fund something.
But I think it's also great in that the foundation, much like you collaborating with Bedford Community Health Foundation, will try to help find other avenues. If it's not something specific that the Bedford Area Educational Foundation can support, will at least provide the teacher with opportunities or ideas of where else they might apply to support that. So I think that's a huge, huge help to the teachers.
It is. And as far as future applications or applicants, if you're listening to the podcast, we would love to receive your application in advance, and we will review it with you, or just not even an application, an idea. And we will work with you to, get it presented in the best possible light for review.
Right, right. I know when my daughter first started teaching in Bedford County Public Schools, I kept expressing to her that there was that opportunity. And a lot of the teachers are just so overwhelmed with their daily work that they don't have time to spend time on a grant application. I will say from my standpoint, and doing grants on a regular basis, your application is very, it's not easy, but it is simple to complete and does not require the details that some grant applications do require. So if teachers are wary or worried that they can't complete something, the application that should not be an issue.
No, not at all. This is a perfect opportunity to fail forward.
Right.
It is not a difficult application. We do like to see the facts and figures and supporting documentation, but it is not onerous by any stretch of the imagination.
Yes. Yeah. I know my daughter, she did receive a grant, and she is a math teacher with Bedford County Public Schools. And much like you were talking about the rocking chairs, she does serve all students, and everybody learns differently. And she applied for what may seem simple to some, but they're whiteboard tables. And they're shaped so that multiple students can sit around a table and work on math problems or equations together as a group, where instead of one person struggling, they're working together. And she can also do group math projects with those tables. And she's had those now probably for about 3 years, and said that they were one of the best. The other teachers in the math departments are jealous because when she has to move rooms and stuff, she's like, yeah, my tables are going with me. And they're wanting her tables because
they should apply.
That's what I keep telling them, because it has really opened up a new way to teach math, which is one of the hard to teach subjects and also difficult for school systems to find teachers in math.
Absolutely, particularly with individualized learning styles
Yes.
and individualized learning plans. Teachers are really called to be all things to these kids, and everybody has got a different learning style.
Right. Yes.
So anything that we can do to enhance that, but also make it easier for the teachers to teach collaboration skills.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
You mentioned earlier, too, kind of about the impact, not only kind of putting a spin on it related to arts, but arts in education and its impact on the well-being of the students, and how teachers serve in all different capacities. And we had 3 teachers on with us last week, and they actually talked about that, and how they're more than just their teacher. They're also their listener, their counselor, their confidant, that type of thing. What do you think the impact today is, not necessarily just with arts in our schools, but in general on the well-being of students, like their, how teachers are working with students to improve their mental health and their ability. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, like we just talked about, students, children, young adults are more individual than ever. Taught from an early age that, you are different than or better than or more unique or unique in some kind of way. So again, teachers really have to pivot to meet that student where they are. And COVID really did a humdinger on students' anxiety and mental health levels. In 2023, Ms. Beth Richardson, who is the Student Support Services Director with BCPS, did a mental health survey with her students. And the numbers, while better than state and national averages, are still pretty alarming. Over 50% of students are withdrawing from events and activities because of their anxiety level. Almost 12% of students have contemplated suicide. So, yes, teachers are maxed out. Yes, counselors are maxed out. But we have to do more as a community to make a difference in these kids. And outside of the school, the arts in education, the data is off the charts about the efficacy of arts in education. And we have seen this. And, where, as a board member of the Bauer Center, you as the executive director, we see that particularly the art installation that's there now with the middle and high school students, the pride that the students feel and their parents and siblings and boyfriends and girlfriends feel when they see their art on a wall, and the neighbors come in, the other family members come in. That kind of community participation, that kind of village building in a student's development is incomparable.
Yes.
So the arts and the excitement that it inspires and the creativity that it inspires is a rolling stone.
Right.
And we really need to do everything that we can to support students' artistic expression.
Right.
Because these mental health numbers are, they're not getting any better.
No. And I think it's important. We talked about this on the podcast last week too, that creativity is, you don't get that just in the arts. Every class that you take, every direction that you go has some sort of aspect of creativity and, using that in your everyday life.
Well, look what your daughter did with the tables and getting creative with how to build teams.
Right.
And our dear friend Sarah Broughton, she shared a YouTube video with me by an educator by the name of Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, about students and screen time, meaning the time that they spend on their cell phones. And he has actually tracked the increase in the levels of anxiety and depression in students with the launches of new cell phone technology.
Right. Back
to what I was saying before the interview about how I don't like to spend time on my cell phone. And to the degree that we can get students off their phones and into nature or into a sketchbook or writing or poetry, any kind of arts like you've mentioned, Susan, is gonna be better for their longitudinal mental health.
Right. Yeah, we at Bauer Center, when hosting classes, both youth and adults, and most importantly, our summer camps, that's basically, I'm not saying that the cell phone and or graphic arts doesn't come into play, that there's opportunities. We've done some photography using cell phones, but also pulled out the digital cameras that kids have never seen, which is a lot of fun. But we pretty much, we tell them leave the cell phones at home, or we make them put them in their bags, at the beginning of the day. They don't carry them with them because we want them to be away from that technology, and we want them to be focusing on what they're doing, the creativity, the fun, the building relationships with the other kids that they've never met before, which is my favorite part of summer camps, is watching these kids connect with each other, with students that are from across the region. And some of them are from out of town because they're visiting their grandparents for the summer, and they come for a week of summer camp. So they're making these relationships, which is really fun to watch. And they're connecting, and they're keeping in touch with each other afterwards and things like that. But it's just so important that these opportunities through our summer camps exactly take them away from the screen time, not watching TV, not playing video games. We take them outside every day, weather appropriate. We make sure that they're getting access to, nature and creativity in nature, but also all kinds of different opportunities to expose them to the
And
arts.
Isn't that great that it's during the summer when the schools are out?
Right.
So this really is making a 365 opportunity between what we're doing in the schools during the school year
Absolutely.
and what the Bauer offers during the summer.
Yes. And we're always, looking for volunteers and individuals that want to come in and, work with the kids, be aides to our instructors and our counselors and things like that. So the community can come together and support these youth as well. And
anybody. Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody, any touch point that a kid can have, another person in their village.
Yes. We're always looking we try to do things where we bring in outside guests sometimes during the week of summer camp to do special projects. We are definitely, if anybody has any opportunities right now, we're looking for some community service projects. We would love for so we have 5 weeks of camp, and we would love for each week for the campers to work together on some small project within the community. So we're trying to come up with some ideas for that, so that it could be something as simple as working in a park, planting flowers or cleaning up. But if there's something artistic related to it, could be painting a simple mosaic somewhere, or doing something, or you coming to them to share some sort of expertise that you as an individual may have. We're just looking for those opportunities. We always have free time with them later in the afternoon after they've done more of their structured classes, and we try to involve them and get them to know their community as well.
Well, that sounds like a good opportunity for the Bedford Area Educational Foundation to help out.
And we're really fortunate being next door to the Wharton Garden and being able to take advantage of that space. And we'd love if there's anybody out there that would like to come and work with the kids in the outdoor setting over at the Wharton Gardens, things that we can do outside related to nature. We'd love to have some activities for sure.
What a great afternoon is to go to the Bauer Center, have lunch at Town Country Provisions, and go into the Wharton Garden. I mean, that's your entire afternoon.
It is. It's a wonderful, for most people, it's funny because we get a lot of people, I'm kind of going off the beaten path here, but we get a lot of guests that come in and that have never been to Bauer Center for the Arts before. They'll eat next door at Town Kitchen Provisions quite often and never just come in our front door. And then when they come in and they discover it, then they discover the Wharton Gardens, and that also connects them to the Bedford County Public Library, which is another wonderful space and resource. And we're kind of there on our own little corner that if individuals,
little piece of heaven,
that you can spend an afternoon actually. The garden has wonderful touch points for both adults and families and kids. The library has a lot of activity going on, and then come in the Bauer Center, enjoy the arts, meet with some of our studio artists, and learn more about what programming we offer.
Do we have time for a funny story?
Sure.
When I was volunteering at the Bauer Center this past weekend from Saturday from 11 to 3. Thank you, everybody who came to see me. But there was a woman who came in to tour the student art exhibits. Mm-hmm. And so she was in there for probably 30 or 45 minutes and talking to other people. And then I saw her next door at the restaurant at Town Kitchen Provisions, and was walking past her and engaged her again. And she said, "This is my favorite corner in the world.
That's awesome.
I just sit here and look at the gardens, look at the Bowers Center, watch the traffic go by." And as she sat there for a good amount of time and was just really enjoying
That's awesome.
the space.
That's what we love to hear. That's what we love to hear. Well, I appreciate, Jay, you joining me today. I'm going to kind of wrap things up and remind everybody that we're currently hosting the Bedford County Public Schools High School Art Invitational. It does close this Saturday. April 27th will be our last day, and their awards reception is Friday evening from 5 to 6:30. It's open to the public. Come in. You'll get to meet some of the kids, their family members, and the awards will be given out that evening as well. It's a wonderful reception. The schools provide some light refreshments, and it's just a really great opportunity, like you said, to see how excited the students are to have their work on display, to be recognized for their talent and creativity.
And it'll be standing room only.
It usually is, yes. Our next exhibit that will be going up after this exhibit comes down is our 12th annual National Juried Exhibition. It's going to run May 7th through June 15th. And I have to say that for the listeners, a juried exhibition means that artists have entered the exhibit, and they can enter up to 3 works of art. And then we have a judge that juries the entries and selects artwork to be in the exhibit. So just because you entered didn't mean that all your artwork got accepted. So it is on a national level. So we had 64 artists from 10 different states that submitted over 200 works of art to this exhibit. And our judge had the difficult task of narrowing that down. We'd love to accept all of them. Unfortunately, our gallery space is not big enough to host 200 works of art. So our judge was able to narrow that down to 62 works of art that were selected for the exhibit. And it's 41 artists are being represented in this national exhibit. This is one of my favorite ones because it's multimedia and it's work from across the country. So it's stuff that you may not ever see again, which is wonderful. And as I mentioned, our summer camps, the themes are up on our website. Registration is open. Those are going to be running in June and July, and scholarships are available. So please don't hesitate to apply because we don't want any youth not feel like that they can't attend because it might be a financial issue. So please apply for our scholarships. And then our next concert is the 1st of June. And that is Sam Wheelock, and he's an Appalachian singer and storyteller. I'm really excited about this one. His tickets are also on sale on our website and at lynchburgtickets.com. So visit bowercenter.org for up-to-date information regarding all of our classes for youth and adult that are currently taking place, the full schedule of our concerts and performances for the rest of the year, all of our exhibits, and much more. So, Jay, thank you again for joining me today.
It is my pleasure. I'm so proud to have been here.
Thank you. And we look forward to having you join us next week. This is Behind the Bower. Thank you.